And we'll go for it. Okay, so here we go. So, effective communication strategies. So, today we're going to explore how communication takes place when someone is living with any form of dementia. And by the end of today's program, you will be able to explain the communication changes that take place throughout the course of this disease. You're going to be able to decode the verbal and nonverbal messages delivered by someone living with dementia and respond in ways that are helpful to that person. And you're going to be able to identify the strategies to help you connect and communicate at each stage of the disease. So, what is communication? Communication is more than just talking and listening. It is also about sending and receiving messages through attitude, tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language. Communication is a way to express who we are and how we relate to each other. And as the brain changes with Alzheimer's disease or another dementia-related progression, people lose their ability to speak and decode language in the usual ways. The better we understand these changes, the better we can connect with people living with Alzheimer's or other dementias throughout the course of the disease. So, communication changes throughout the disease. As Alzheimer's disease and other dementias progress, people lose their ability to communicate their thoughts and feelings through words. They also lose the ability to understand the words that others speak to them. However, they do maintain a sense of self throughout all the stages of the disease. And this means that elements of those characteristics that make the person unique will remain a part of him or her throughout the disease. Connecting with the person's self is key to effective communication, and staying connected and giving him or her a voice as the disease progresses. In the early stages of the disease, there may be just a few noticeable changes in the person's ability to communicate with words, or there may be no recognizable changes at all. Asking the person how he or she would like to be helped with words can be useful in this stage. Language abilities diminish as the disease progresses, and communication moves from easy conversation to relying on emotions and the five senses to connect. As care partners and caregivers, you are the ones who will adjust the ways you communicate and maintain connections with them throughout the disease. And remember that the essence of the person continues. Respect the person as the adult he or she is, and adjust your communication based on what is meaningful to the person today, no matter what the stage. Communication in the early stage. In the early stage, you may or may not see changes in the way the person communicates. For some people, there may be shifts in the ease with their words or conversations. Some of the most common changes you may notice in the early stage are listed on this slide and include difficulty finding the right words, taking longer to speak or respond, withdrawing from conversation, struggling with decision-making or problem-solving, and reacting more emotionally than in the past, and avoiding discussion of the disease and its impact. And whether you notice these changes in the way the person speaks or not, communication in the early stage is crucial. This is a period in which everyone involved is adjusting to the diagnosis and is having thoughts and feelings about the changes ahead of them. And remember that denial is part of the disease for some, while for others, emotions can feel overwhelming. Come to terms with the diagnosis and the emotions you all are feeling by talking together and expressing your connection. This will help you both accept the diagnosis, move forward, and discover new ways to live positive, fulfilling lives together. Communicating throughout the process can also bring closeness that will help everyone adjust more easily as the disease progresses. In our first video clip, we're going to hear from Martha Tierney from the Alzheimer's Association's home office tell us about how to be helpful in the early stages.
Communicating in the early stages of dementia with the person with the disease is important. At that time, you still have language as a tool, so you can learn things about what they might prefer as the disease progresses. For example, as the disease progresses, a person might have difficulty finding words. Caregivers often struggle to know what to do in that moment. Early on in the disease, you can ask. You can say, if you ever have trouble coming up with a word, would you rather that I jump in and give you the word, or do you want me to wait and allow you some time so you can find it on your own?
Very good. So, communication in the early stage to connect. One of the best ways to be sure you are offering the help with communication that the person needs is to ask directly. For example, if a person struggles to find the right word, ask whether it feels better that you supply the word or just wait patiently. Keep your sentences direct and straightforward to help the person avoid feeling lost in a conversation. Short sentences can make your meaning clear. Avoid long explanations and take your cue from the person, taking care not to talk down to him or her. And it may take longer for the person to find words or put thoughts together and express them. So be sure to allow extra time for conversations so no one feels pressured or rushed. And keep in mind that the conversational needs will change over time. And in the early stage, the person with dementia needs to have his or her voice heard. You can help facilitate this with when you meet the person right where he or she is today, regardless of the stage of the disease. And also, be sure to include the person in any conversation if he or she wishes, especially those that will have an effect on his or her future. Including the person can be empowering and engaging. Some other key points include don't make assumptions about a person's ability to communicate because of Alzheimer's or another dementia diagnosis. This disease affects each person differently. Speak directly to the person if you want to know how he or she is doing. And explore which method of communication is most comfortable for the person. This could include letters, email, phone calls, or even in-person conversations. And you know what? It's okay to laugh. Sometimes humor lightens the mood and makes communication easier. Be honest and frank about your feelings and don't pull away. Your friendship and support are important to the person with dementia. So, changes you may notice with communicating in the middle stage. Many changes in the middle stage of Alzheimer's or other dementias affect communication. If you notice some of these changes in the early stage, they are likely to become more pronounced in the middle stage. And some of the changes you notice are listed on the side. Increased difficulty finding the right word, using familiar words repeatedly, inventing new words to describe familiar things, such as calling a watch a hand clock, easily losing your train of thought, speaking less often, and communicating through behavior rather than words more often. And some others may include difficulty organizing words logically, reverting to speaking in a native language, using curse words, relying on gestures instead of speaking, difficulty following a conversation or TV program, and having difficulty decoding what others are saying. Changes in the brain making tracking and decoding words more difficult. And for that reason, people begin to use behavior to communicate more often in the middle stage of the disease. Next, I'm going to discuss the adjustments that you can make that will help you continue to connect with the person living with Alzheimer's disease or another dementia. And please note that some physical conditions and medications may affect a person's ability to communicate. If changes occur suddenly and dramatically, consult a doctor. There may be a medical issue that needs to be addressed right away, such as a urinary tract infection or a side effect of a medication. In this next video clip, Beverly shares advice she gives to caregivers as a support group facilitator.
I would advise couples, and I usually do advise the caregiver who comes to the group and is caring for a spouse, that you take your time. Always count to 3 before you respond, because it gives you time to think about your answer and what's going on. Generally, in a marital dispute, it's quick. It's back and forth. You're quick to give an answer. When they've been diagnosed, to sit back and say, okay, you're supposed to be the one that's reasonable here. Let's change how we do this, because there's only one thing you can control, and that's you. You cannot control them and their process.
Very good points. So, when communicating with the person in the middle stages, approach the person gently. Identify yourself and approach the person from front and on eye level. Call the person by name and say who you are in relationship to the person. For instance, "Hi, Dad, it's your daughter, Sue." This will help orient the person and get his or her attention. Sometimes using touch can show you care, even when your words are just about a task or are not understood. A gentle touch can also get the person's attention. And don't criticize, correct, or impose your perspective. It will backfire most of the time. Pay attention to your facial expressions and tone of voice. Be calm and patient. The person can feel either your tension or your patient understanding. And remember, take time to communicate. Give yourself and the person you're talking with enough time to respond, interact, and connect. In this next video clip, Rebecca is going to be talking about adjusting her own thoughts and responses when her mother repeats herself.
She could sense my frustration, because occasionally I would lose my patience and I would bark at her. Why are you asking me that question again? I just answered that question 2 minutes ago. And then she would get frustrated because, you know, she was very old school, and she's like, "Don't disrespect me." And I didn't ask you that question 2 minutes ago. It's a new question. So phase 2 of our relationship was like, okay, that's a new question. I'll answer it again.
Very good. So, when you join the person's reality, you take a little time to see the world as he or she may be seeing it right at the moment. When seen from his or her perspective, the person's behavior can often become understandable to you. And due to the changes in the brain that accompany the disease, the person will probably not be able to see your perspective. So you will be the one who will need to respect and empathy to see the world through his or her eyes. Joining the person's reality is key in helping the person have his or her say, and it provides soothing and reassurance. And to do this, you can take the steps listed on the slide. So, listen to figure out what the person wants or needs. This means paying attention to both the words and the behavior of the person. And keep in mind that the person may be saying something about his or her feelings or needs, but may be feeling something else on a deeper level that also needs attention from you. For example, the words, I can still drive just fine, may also contain the feeling, I don't want to give up my independence, so don't take that away from me. The words, stop taking over my life, I hate it, may actually reflect the meaning, I hate this disease and I don't understand why I can't do what I always could. Let the person know that you understand what he or she may be feeling and why, whether they are expressed through words, behavior, or both. And answer any question or address any issue he or she may bring up. Be brief and to the point. Then, most importantly, respond to the emotions behind the behavior or their concern. For example, if the person is communicating with words, you might say, you seem sad. Do you feel sad today? And then wait for a response. If the person says yes, you may want to guess the cause, as in, do you miss the way things used to be? If the person says yes to this as well, you could say, well, you know, Dad, I do too. If the person is communicating with behavior, see if you can identify and speak about the emotion behind the behavior. If the person is rummaging through possessions, it may be a way of communicating boredom or needing something. Hitting during bathing can be a way to say that the person feels too hot, too cold, or uncomfortable with being naked or feeling out of control. And finally, after you've responded to the emotions, reassure and redirect the person by encouraging him or her to do something that may shift the person's thinking and behavior. So, to continue the example, you could say, I'm glad to be here with you today. Let's go outside for a walk. In this way, you are gradually moving the person from feeling sad to doing something active that can both lift his or her spirits. So, keep it slow and basic. Take your time and be patient when you communicate. The more you slow down, the less resistance you will encounter because the person won't feel rushed or unable to keep up. Rushing leaves the person feeling frustrated, inadequate, and upset with him or herself, and then resistant. By taking your time, you avoid frustration for everyone. Use short sentences and basic words and speak clearly. And be specific. It sometimes helps to offer the choice you think best at the end of the sentence. For example, rather than asking, what would you like for breakfast? You could say, it's breakfast time. Would you like eggs or oatmeal? Give multiple cues. It's helpful to give the person many cues as you communicate. This reinforces your words and clarifies your message. Provide visual clues and gestures and avoid sudden movement. Use gentle gestures and pointing, but avoid making sudden gestures that may startle the person. Write things down for the person. Reminder notes, calendars, labels, lists can remind the person where things belong what's to be done, and who is who in the person's life. Labeled photos can help the person keep track of names and relationships in the middle stage. Offer answers in your questions. It is much easier for a person in the middle stage to choose what to eat for lunch, for example, if the question is not open-ended. What would you like for lunch, Bill? Is a question that may leave the person overwhelmed and stuck for an answer. This often leads to confusion and, easiest of all, refusal. But it's much easier for the person to answer the question phrased this way. Bill, I'm making sandwiches for lunch. Would you like ham or turkey? The person can choose one or the other and will often choose the last option mentioned. If he seems stuck, you can suggest an answer such as, how about ham? Repeat information or questions. Although you may have many reminders in place, plan on needing to repeat information you provide or questions you ask. The person may not have been able to decode your message completely at the first time, and repetition can help. Turn those negatives into positives. For example, if you need to get a person into the shower and they always resist the task, rather than saying, it's time for your shower, triggering resistance, you can say, let's go and get you cleaned up today so that you'll be ready for Cindy's visit when she comes this afternoon. Avoid quizzing the person. Quizzing the person asks him or her to try harder to remember, or saying that he or she knows the answer and asking the person to think again is unfair and doesn't work. Trying harder just leads to frustration. It is much more respectful and helpful to give the person the information he or she needs for a task or situation, along with the reminders as needed. Respond empathically and reassure. Let the person know that you are there and listening and that you hear his or her concerns. The facts are far less important than the person's feelings and his or her view of reality. These feelings and perspectives are very real to the person, even though they may not match your reality. Responding to those feelings first can help avoid resistance. Provide reassurance that you are together and safe and that you are here to help. And let the person know that you're here and understand the thoughts and feelings he or she is experiencing. And as long as there's not a safety issue, agree and go with the flow, finding common ground whenever possible. And make any adjustments to the situation that are necessary, and then redirect the person to another activity if needed. So communication in the late stage and changes that you may notice. In the late stage or the severe stage, the person may only use a few words, but he or she still needs to connect and communicate. Since the person has lost many functions by the late stage, you may feel a strong urge to do something. Usually, your presence and connection with the person are much more important than doing something specific for the person. Remember that the person is an adult with a sense of self that continues throughout the stages. And you can connect with those aspects of the self by remembering the person's history and respecting his or her preferences. The goal is to help the person feel content and happy whenever possible. Keep talking. Use familiar words, names, phrases, poems, passages, or songs. Whether you get a direct response from the person or not, the sound of your voice helps maintain the connection between you. Using the five senses is a great way to connect with the person living with dementia in the late stage. And this may be done through touch, sight, sound, smell, and taste. And it can try to understand the person's feelings in the late stage. Connecting through the five senses can be a way to connect that feels comfortable to the person. In this next video clip, Sandra talks about connecting with her mother in the late stage of the disease.
I know that my mom feels aggravated. I know that she feels alone. I know that she feels confused. And I know on any given day, I don't know if I've made it better for her. I try. In these later stages, I've come to recognize that being really aware of the five senses is really important. Touch seems to give her a great deal of comfort. I know when I come over, I'm going to brush her hair all the time. And my husband noted to me recently, he said, you know, you should see the look on your mom's face when you're brushing her hair. She's just happy. She's just happy. She doesn't say a lot. And I do it for a long period of time. I comb it, I braid it, I do funny things with it, but it just allows me to just be with her in a way that makes her feel comfortable.
Very good. Connect through touch. It can help to try to understand a person's feeling in the late stage. Connecting through the five senses can help be a way to connect that feels comfortable to the person. So here are some ideas for connecting through touch. Feeling different fabrics, identifying shapes by touch, lotion hand massages, identifying every items in a bag by touch, visiting with animals, molding non-toxic clay or dough, and holding the person's hand or stroke his or her arm or back. And this may be the most powerful way to connect non-verbally. Connecting through sight. So here are some examples. You can laminate brightly colored pictures to look at together, watch videos of animals, nature, or travel, look at photo albums together, and view photos of famous paintings, favorite settings, or prominent people from the past. Watch birds or look at aquariums. Paint with watercolors. And go outdoors or sit by an open window together to experience the environment together, using many of the senses at once, feeling the sunshine, seeing people and pets walk by, hearing nature sounds, feeling the breeze, or smelling of a coming rain shower. Connecting through sound. Using sound and music are some of the most powerful ways to connect in the late stage. Listen to familiar music, including familiar musical styles that may stir happy memories, such as jazz, big band dance music, hymns, classical pieces, etc. Listen to recordings of the sounds of nature, farms, cities, animals, or babies. Identify musical instruments by sound. Perhaps listen to recordings. Oh, I already said that. Sorry about that. Listen to songs or speech in the person's own native language. Read books, poetry, scripture, or newspaper articles to the person. And let the person hear the gentle tone of your voice. Connecting through smell in the late stage. The sense of smell is one of our most basic senses, although this sense may diminish with age and the disease progression. Consider using some of the ideas on the slide to connect with the person, such as making small plastic bags containing items in the person to be able to smell under supervision, such as herbs or spices, cotton balls dipped in essential oils, grass clippings, fragrant flowers, even the fall leaves, teas or coffee beans, And use fragrant lotions for hand massages. And you may also want to have a variety of small fragrant candles that are strongly scented when unlit to smell together. And remember to use scents that the person will find familiar and pleasant. And keep in mind any allergies that the person may have and avoid any scents that may aggravate them. Connecting through taste in a late stage of the disease. Well into the late stage, people living with dementia enjoy tasting favorite foods and the flavors. Here are some ways that you may provide some strong flavor sensations for the person. However, as the ability of swallowing diminishes, choking becomes a hazard. Be sure to provide only what the person can swallow safely. So, perhaps some favorite foods, home baked goodies, popsicles, flavored drinks, ice creams, and puddings. So, to summarize, maximizing our communication and connectiveness with a person living with dementia involves adhering to a few principles. Understand what is and isn't possible to change by understanding all you can about the disease. Stay up to date with the latest information and scientific breakthroughs on Alzheimer's disease and other dementias by attending workshops, conferences, and virtual programs. Know and accept the cognitive and functional limitations of the person to help you set realistic expectations of the person. And remember that the person is an adult with a sense of self that should always be respected. And remember to use feelings to connect. You convey your mood through your actions and your tone of voice. The person will pick up and reflect those feelings. Stay focused on your positive feelings for the person to increase your understanding of his or her reality. And demonstrate your caring to the person to help you connect. Listen, observe, and try to decode what the person is communicating about his or her needs or wants. By joining the person's reality, you can better understand what is needed and how to intervene. Communication involves throughout the stages of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and adapting to those changes requires commitment. By adjusting your communication as the disease progresses, you can learn to connect deeply and deeply and I'm just going to add another word. You can connect deeply and sincerely. In the next video clip, Dr. Sam Fazio of the Alzheimer's Association's home office describes the multiple effects of not caring for yourself as a caregiver.
Taking care of yourself while you care for somebody with the disease not only impacts your own health, but it really can impact the person with the disease. So for example, if you're not getting enough sleep, you might be easily irritated, which will then sort of spill over to your interactions with the person with the disease and maybe being short with them, which then might cause them to get frustrated. So it's not only important to take care of yourself for your own health, but really for you to really be a good caregiver.
Very good. Very important to take note on. So here we go. The Alzheimer's Association's 24/7 helpline 1-800-272-3900 is available around the clock 365 days a year. And this is a free service. Specialists and master level clinicians offer confidential support and information to people living with the disease, caregivers, families, and to the public. And you can contact the helpline day or night to speak confidently with master level care consultants for decision-making support, crisis assistance, and education on issues families face every day. Learn about the symptoms of Alzheimer's and other dementias. Find out about local programs and services, such as the programs offered on this slide. And get general information about legal, financial, and care decisions, as well as treatment options for managing symptoms. And you can receive help in your preferred language through our bilingual staff or translation service, which accommodates more than 200 languages. And access support through our TTY service if assistance is required using a teletype device. So, you can now take these educational programs either by webinar or phone, or in some locations in person with safety regulations or requirements. These programs are available to you for free, and can find more information just going on communityresourcefinder.org in the Alzheimer's website. And just a little bit more about this. It's a community resource finder. By visiting it, it's an online tool at communityresourcefinder.org. You can search for local community living services, day programs, medical resources, and much more. And whether you are in an area or across the country, you can find these services to help someone living with dementia and make contacts you all need to ensure safety and comfort. Another area at ALZ Connected is the association's very, very active online community for caregivers and people living with dementia. ALZ Connected online message boards have over 50,000 members who share their thoughts, questions, and ideas with each other 24 hours a day. And you can just simply browse the forums without creating a profile. And these ways you can learn directly from other caregivers. But you will have to create a profile if you choose to post a message or have a question. And all you have to do is www.alzconnected.org. And there you go for that one. Another part of Alzheimer's Association is the Alzheimer's Navigator at alzheimersnavigator.org. When facing Alzheimer's disease, there are a lot of things to consider. The Alzheimer's Navigator tool helps guide caregivers to answers by creating a personalized action plan and linking you to information, support, and local resources. So, in all these circled icons, you have swimming, working with your doctor, symptoms, safety, legal planning, knowledge, financial support, driving, caregiving, care options, daily living, all different areas that you could get involved with and have a personalized plan. So
some occasions
that's just it for today. We've ended our program on effective communication. I'm going to open up the mic back to Joseph if you have any questions, and I thank you for the privilege of presenting this program to everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Am I still the only one on?
I've been seeing you all this time, my
Oh,
dear.
no,
That's so funny. No, that's fine. That's fine. Do you have any
you
questions?
see me pick my nose?
No, I was reading my script. Yeah, you disappeared. So, no, it's fine. Any questions, comments, thoughts? We're here for you. We've got a bit of time.
Well, thank you. Well, what I have learned from this, I've done a lot. It's my sister. She's
Okay,
in an assisted living. She's down in Bowie. I'm in Catonsville.
lovely. Okay.
And I'm afraid what I'm looking for or answers that nobody can really give me, it's my problem. When I go to visit her, and I don't, unfortunately, am the only one who visits her.
Mhm.
And I try to get there every other Sunday. I do get there every other Sunday, call her in between. So when I go visit her, of course, she wants to get in the groove of the same questions. And after 2.5, 3 hours of answering the same questions,
Mhm.
I have to admit I lose it. and I
Right.
don't know how to control myself to not get angry.
Well, in a nutshell, this is part of the disease, repetition. And
Right.
she probably wants to say a lot more and do a lot more because she sees you and maybe she wants to go somewhere. So redirect, go for a walk, go get a cup of coffee, go outside. I'm sure if they have
Well, we
gardens,
do.
go for a walk.
I
And
take her
that's it.
out.
Yeah.
I
And
take her out to the
continue.
front porch. But
But walk,
part
can
of the
she walk? Can you give her some physical? Sometimes when they get physical activity, it changes the perspective a little bit more, and to do something like paint outside, fill a bird feeder, go trim the garden, maybe plant, maybe pick up some leaves and do an art project
Mhm,
rather than and I feel because I was a director and this is what we did all the time with
mhm.
assisted living and memory care. So the more that you did, and then they're a little tired, they might be hungry. The questions may start up, but it won't be so demanding to you where we all lose our patience and it would help you too as well, to do different things, have a plan of doing things. Maybe have a bunch of socks that you're going to fold outside, activities for her to do outside. Because if she's just sitting there, she may just start the repetition again.
Well,
You know
we
what I
do
mean?
go outside. Part of
Yeah.
the problem is that she, where she is, they do their best to try to get her out of her room to do
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
She will not leave the room.
Oh, well, that's easy
So
enough too.
consequently, when I
Hmm.
come,
Hmm.
I'm it. I'm the only one who makes her walk outside, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, is she eating breakfast with everyone?
No,
Oh, well, that's I don't run an assisted living, but when we had loved ones that didn't do that, they needed to come out and eat. I mean, that was just part of
she
making
won't
sure
do
they
it.
don't show. Well,
She
you're just
won't
going to
do it.
have to get her. They're going to
Well,
have to get
that's
her out. It may not be a pretty thing, but in order to
well,
start that, then
that's the other complication.
yeah,
She's difficult to get up, and then she gets aggressive with
yeah.
the help, the aides. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the
It's
whole
just
care team. You know what?
yeah,
I mean, if you have power of attorney or whom I don't
I
know all the
do.
particulars, then you need to have a care plan meeting, work with the DON, director of nursing, executive
Okay.
director, and find out their philosophy,
Uh-huh.
and it may be a good fit for your loved one. It may not be a good fit for your loved one,
Hmm.
but for your quality of visit, you're either, going to have to accept it, or if you want change, because she is your sister and your PLP and you have the power of attorney, then you may have to just pursue things a little bit more and find out the reasoning behind it. Is the medication thing, is it is
No,
it a
it's her
memory care unit?
personality.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. But basic vital things, getting food, getting a shower so we don't have bed sores, nutrition, all that needs to be addressed. And it needs to be a team in your care plan meeting, and have a plan of action. It's just a suggestion, you
Okay.
know. But I
Okay.
feel your frustration. I've traveled that road many times. Yeah, I feel it. But thanks for
Okay.
sharing,
All right. Thank
and
you. Uh-huh.
no, you're welcome, Miss Sipple. Okay. Anybody else? Ebony, I don't know who else is involved. If anybody has any thoughts or, expressions, we're here for you. That was a good question. Yeah.
Well, I will look up this Alzheimer navigation dot
Hmm.
map.
Yeah.
I think basically I need to find a support group.
Yeah. And you know what? In your local area, there are support groups offered. If you contact McGean White or just go back to Joseph, who you contacted here for the presentation, there are support groups that
Okay.
also, and they offer that free. And that may be a great thing as well, a good tool.
Right,
So just
right.
contact it.
Because again, part of my problem is, of course, I understand when I want to leave after 3.5, 4 hours, she doesn't want me to leave, so she turns it
No.
into a confrontational
Right.
type
So you have
thing.
to head that off in the pat and you have to head that off.
Yeah.
So when you know that your time's coming up within the hour, we're
Mhm.
getting to, and maybe work it to when they're going to have dinner or an afternoon snack. So when she's eating, you're going to go to the bathroom and then off you go. You don't say bye
Oh, no,
because that's
no.
part of it. So you just
Oh,
have to
yeah.
work with the team. I mean, as a director, I had with these special loved ones, we had a plan of action and it was
Mhm.
fluid, and we very rarely had upsets because we all were on the same page. But if you're leaving at the change of shift at 3 o'clock, 2:30 to 3:30, that's a tough time because the change of shift, the energy levels and all that. So you have to kind of think, when's a calmer area for me to do that? Okay, she busy with an activity, a program director doing activities. Great, then I can parlay out and that's that. And then the caregiving team will manage the loved one from there,
Okay,
you know.
got it. Yeah,
Because for you and your heart, you want it to be an enjoyable experience too for
correct.
you.
Oh,
I
yeah,
feel you
I
because
absolutely dread going
yeah,
down there.
yeah, and I feel it with you just, explaining it to me right now when you want to leave on a positive note for both.
Hmm.
So then
Yep.
she's
For
enjoying
some
the
reason,
activity.
telephone conversations go way better for some reason.
Well, yeah, it might just be there's less distractions, she's thinking, I mean, it works for some better than some, it
Yeah.
doesn't work
Yeah.
so
Okay.
well.
Okay. Thank
Maybe
you.
she doesn't feel your aura so much. Remember, senses are heightened. So if she feels that you're getting a little stressed, even though you're trying to calm it, people can feel that.
Hmm.
I mean, I had a kindergarten, I was teaching yesterday, and they said, Mrs. Janet, why aren't you smiling? I thought I was, but I wasn't because I had so many misbehaviors. They
Uh-huh.
read that, and
Uh-huh.
the residents will read that too. So, yeah, phone conversation, it kind of gets you off the hook a little bit, and you don't have to, and then you can smile your pretty smile, what she wants to see. Yeah. Wear a
Well,
crazy hat.
unfortunately, she's got macular degeneration, so she
Of
can't.
course, of course. Right, right,
I mean,
right.
it's just like, oh my God.
Well, you know what? And I'm sure McGee is getting wind of this conversation too. Is it Bryn Sipple? So she'll
Brent
send something.
Seipel, yeah.
Sipel, okay.
Uh-huh.
So she'll get some information out to you as
Oh,
well,
great.
through your
Okay.
email. Okay. And
Huge.
you have, okay, well, great. Yeah, happy
Right.
days are ahead for
All
you in
right.
this fall.
Okay. I hope so.
You bet. Okay.
All
Thank you
righty.
for
Bye-bye.
sharing,
Thank
Bryn.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else out there?
Nobody else left, Linda.
Oh, well, goodness.
It's
Well,
just us
then,
again.
Yeah.
okay. Well, I guess that concludes today's presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I
Miss
truly enjoyed
Miss
it.
Although, if you do want any additional information, can you put your email address in the chat box? Because I don't have your contact
Uh,
information. That's through the library, so. Or I can put mine. Let me type mine in there, just in case.
and then you can just send her an email of what you're looking for, Bryn, support groups and anything else, and then
I
McGee
don't know
can
if you
get
can
you.
see the chat box, but. Oh, okay, and you gave me yours. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yahoo.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah, after three, I'm going into the third year dealing with this by myself, and I'm reaching the breaking point.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can see it.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Oh, yeah, you bet. That's what the Alzheimer's Association is here for, to help folks just like you.
Okay.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
All righty.
Absolutely. All right, Joseph. Well, I guess that's it then.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Have a
very
good rest of your
much.
day.
My
Yes,
We
pleasure.
appreciate it.
goodbye.
We'll see you next month.